Okay, welcome back to Presentación 2, Semana 6 de la Unidad 1. Your essential question for this second lesson is going to be, ¿Cómo son algunos profesores? What are some of your teachers like? Describe them. For your I can statement today, I can exchange information to describe my teachers. I want you to take out a piece of paper or use your notes. In your notes, I want you to write down each of these Spanish words that you see. Some of them are familiar, some of them are cognates, and you'll be able to figure those out that way. Some of them you might not have a clue, so we'll talk about those. I want you to match each of the English words to each of the Spanish words. Pause your video now and take some time to do that. All right, and here are a few more vocab words that you'll need to know. Some of your verbs. I want you to, again, pause your video, try to match each of the Spanish verbs with a picture that you see. Some of the pictures are a little bit tricky. It's as close as I could get. But go ahead and write down your Spanish verbs and try to put an English verb beside that. Please pause your video now. Okay, let's see how you did. So looking at this, if I were to tackle this, I would first of all just start with words that I knew or words that are cognates. They look the same in English and Spanish. So if I start with distante, well, if I drop off the E, there's the English word distant. Organizado, well, that looks a whole lot like the word organized. Dinámico also looks a lot like the word dynamic. Desorganizado has that word organizado in it, but with a prefix. So I'm going to think desorganizado would be disorganized. Let's see. I've got injusto, and then I've got justo. There I have justo in both words. So let's look down here. A word that comes up twice would be unfair and fair. Well, I'm going to think in is probably the prefix un. So unfair, injusto, justo is fair. Now that just leaves me with 4 other ones. We did have the word amable last year, I believe. Amable is kind. Now, comprensivo, entretenido, and exigente. Entretenido, just to help you out a little bit, has kind of the same beginning as the word that it means. Entretenido is an entertaining type teacher. Comprensivo, not much we can do there but memorize it. Comprensivo is an understanding teacher. And exigente is a demanding teacher. There is how your words matched up. How did you do? All right, so now for your Spanish verbs. Animar a los estudiantes looks like to animate the students. If you think to animate, it's actually going to be to encourage the students. Okay. Explicar has pretty much the same root as your English. So explicar is to explain. Let's come down to another easy one. Evaluar is going to have the same root. So that is to evaluate. If I look at the word ejemplos, and if I look at the word example in English, there's a little bit of a similarity there. So dar ejemplos is to give examples. Calificar is going to be to grade, and repasar is going to be to review. Check your answers on there. Make corrections if you need to, so you have the correct meanings for each of the vocab words, and continue on. All right, so the next activity that I want you to do is I want you to read through the 10 sentences describing how a teacher is. Based on the description of what that teacher is like, I want you to decide which adjective up here would best describe the teacher. I'm going to pause, or you're going to pause the video, spend some time working on this. Please do not use a translator. Do the best that you can. On your paper, write down numbers 1 through 10 and continue to work. Pause the video now. So hopefully you did not move on to the next slide just to get the answers, but you actually worked through it trying to figure it out on your own. That's going to be the difference between learning and just getting by in my class. So if you were learning, number 1, the teacher that asks a lot of their students and you can't pass the class without doing a lot of work means that the teacher is demanding. If the teacher is impartial and treats everyone equal, the teacher is fair, justo. If the teacher loses everything and can't find anything, the teacher is disorganized. If the teacher can't really connect with many of the students, the teacher is distant. If the teacher listens to the students well and understands them, the teacher is understanding. Number 6, if the teacher that has favorite students and doesn't treat everyone equal, then the teacher is unjust or unfair. The teacher is fun and he or she makes these students smile, then the teacher is entertaining. The teacher that's very good or very nice is kind. The teacher is animated. They have a lot of energy and a lot of passion. Then the teacher is dynamic. And the teacher that has everything prepared and ready for class is organized. Again, how did you do? Next, this one's going to get a little bit messy going here and there. But what I want you to do is I want you to think of one teacher that you've had in Southport High School, or you still have now, and think of 3 positive sentences that you could write about this teacher without actually using the teacher's name. I would even suggest that you jot down those 3 sentences on a piece of paper and practice your writing skills before you go on to the next step. After you have 3 sentences down to describe the teacher, you will then go back to your module and click on the Adivina quién. When you get here, you're going to write down your 3 sentences, but do not use the name of the teacher. If I say, es alta, es muy amable, enseña la clase de español, and I'm going to give 4 sentences here, is de Wisconsin. And we will excuse her for that. For this one here, we know that this is a girl. We know that she teaches Spanish class, and we know that she's from Wisconsin. Once I post my reply, I'm going to leave it there. And then as other people start sharing their descriptions, I'm going to go through and see if I can guess who that teacher is. If I can figure out who that teacher is, I'm going to reply to that student and I'm going to write the teacher's name. Oh, as Senora Marshall. Okay, so going through and playing a little game of guess who with your Spanish adjectives and descriptions. After you're done posting that and kind of playing that game, we're going to go through and assess your progresivo comunicativo. Remember, this is communicative, so it's going to be done in Spanish. Can you do this in Spanish? So the question is, I can exchange information to describe my teachers. Well, if you were able to do the guess who game, and if you were able to go through the 10 sentences about the description of teachers with their adjectives, then you're probably doing a pretty good job with this goal. This is still a goal. I still can't describe my teachers and exchange information. I can do this with some help, maybe using my notes, going back to some of my vocab words, Or I can do this without using any notes. I can do this independently. Think about how you would assess yourself right now with your communicative skills. Lastly, just thinking about this cultural focus. In Spanish-speaking high schools, students can call their teacher profe, which is short for profesor. You can also call your teacher profesor, profesora, maestro, maestra, depending on their gender. A lot of times you wouldn't even use the person's last name. You would just call them maestra. So thinking about this, what are some other respectful ways to get your teacher's attention if you were sitting in a math class or if you were sitting in a science class? Would you yell out, teacher, teacher? I will also give you another hint. Hey, yo, bro are not acceptable ways to get teachers' attention, even though I've heard that a lot. So if you can kind of like knock that off, that would be awesome. But think of respectful ways that you can get a teacher's attention. Adios.